multi-division, yes, our multi-division, multi-area contest here. Now, this is a reminder that I need everyone to turn off their video and to mute themselves. Both. We'll have only the contestant, as I introduce them, turn on their cameras. Mr. Chief Judge, have all the contestants, judges, and the functionaries been briefed? You have to turn back on your microphone.
There we go. Yeah, the judges, timers, and counters have been briefed. I did not do the briefing for the contestants.
That's true. I was in on their briefing, so I can confirm they've been briefed. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For the benefit of everyone, but especially for the benefit of the judges, I will now announce the order of the contestants. We have 5 contestants representing 4 different areas. The first speaker will be from area A3, Stephanie Walsh. Stephanie Walsh. The second speaker will be from area B2, Arthur Brody. Arthur Brody. The third speaker is from area D1, Douglas Crook. Douglas Crook. The fourth speaker will be from area D2, Eloise Phillips. Eloise Phillips. And the fifth speaker will be from area D2, Roy Jones. Roy Jones. If any judge needs a repeat of any of that, I hope I did it slowly enough. From the reaction box, click raise hands. Do not turn on your camera, but you can raise your hand and I'll repeat all of that if you need it. Seeing none, we will commence. We will, the timer, I hope, is ready. And as with the last contest, we will do a mic check and visual check. So if our first speaker, Stephanie Walsh, will, oh, you got your camera on. Stephanie, yes. Can you hear me? Can you see the timer and respond back so we can hear you?
I certainly can see the timer.
Okay. And we can hear you as well. And again, everybody else keep on mute and your cameras off. And so we begin. Our first speaker, Stephanie Walsh. Title, Staying Positive When Fear Tries to Take Charge. Staying positive when fear tries to take charge. Please welcome Stephanie Walsh.
Contest Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Fear. F-E-A-R. Fear. Fear can take hold of us. It can make our heart beat faster. It can influence our behavior, and it absolutely can cause self-doubt. Fear. It's something that we all have, each one of us. I was talking to my granddaughter the other day about fear. And she gave me an analogy that I think I will always keep with myself. And that was, Nana, do you bring that fear along with you when you go out for a drive in the car? I said, Bella, what do you mean? Nana, when you go for a drive in the car, you make sure that you don't let that fear be the driver of your car. It's okay to bring fear with you, but make sure that fear is either sitting in the passenger seat or better yet, sitting behind you in the back seat. Because when you allow fear to be the driver, they have control of you. It has control of you. Fear. I thought that was a pretty good analogy. And it really has set into my heart to think about that. Every time I feel those feelings of anguish and sheer terror going through me, kind of like about 5 o'clock tonight when I was preparing to be in this Toastmaster contest. I have 3 fears that I am battling. One is a fear of flying insects. Moths mainly, but flying insects, anything that's going to fly around my head and just make me feel like it's going to go up my nose or into my mouth. The other fears that I have a slight fear of public speaking. It's not so much getting in front of everybody. It's the fear of forgetting a word, or worse yet, going overtime in my speech and boring everybody. But my third fear, the one that I've battled the hardest with, is my fear of flying. Not this kind of flying, but when you board an airplane and you go up into the sky and then you travel across the United States. Haven't yet gotten brave enough to go across the Atlantic. I want to give you an example of that. And with this example, I want to share with you the importance of taking that fear and turning your reaction from a negative reaction into a positive solution. I rely on 2 things. I rely on prayer and I rely on positive affirmations. A positive affirmation is when you make a statement. It always should be in the present tense and it should end with a positive reaction or feeling. My example for you, the positive affirmation I started had to do with an opportunity that Ned and I had to go to Disney World, all expenses paid. But we didn't have 2 weeks to cross the country in a car. I had to board an airplane. And in doing that, that was difficult. How was I going to get on that airplane? I enjoy flying because it takes me to new and interesting places. That was my affirmation. And I said it about 10 times a day. I enjoy flying because it takes me to new and interesting places. I enjoy flying because it takes me to new and interesting places. Well, we got on that airplane, we went to Disney World, we had a wonderful time, and I enjoy flying because it takes me to new and interesting places, including back home. My other fear of public speaking, boy, did I say a lot today with prayer. Lord, help me to stay on time. But I also said, I use every corner of my mind to find just the right word. And quite frankly, I enjoy sharing information with others. Flying insects, well, I'm kind of wearing bees all over me. I'm called the queen bee at home. I see the beauty in all pollinators because they bring life and color to this world. positive affirmations. Toastmasters, I encourage you to use them. Share positive comments with your fellow Toastmasters. Susan, I believe in you. Pat, I always enjoy your speeches. Sherry, I am so inspired by you. Fear, F-E-A-R, fear. 2 ways to handle it. Forget everything and run, or rise and face everything and rise. The choice is yours. Contest Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. If we could have 1 minute of silence for the benefit of the judges and their score sheets. Mr. Timer, flash me the green light when the 1 minute is up. Thank you, Mr. Timer. You're doing your job splendidly. Could this adjourns the Area A3 contest as we move forward into the Area B2 contest. The next contestant should turn on their camera and their microphone, and we will do a mic check. Can you see the timer, have it pinned, and hear me and say something, and we'll hear you?
I don't have the pin up. Let me make sure I get that. Again, I wasn't sure.
As long as you can see the timer, we don't have a second. We don't have a second screen or a second page where people are disappearing off to, since we have 24 people online right now.
Okay, well, I think I have it. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you quite well.
Thank you very much.
So we will begin. Our second contestant, Arthur Brody. Title of his speech, Brody, where did you come from? Brody, where did you come from? Please welcome Arthur Brody.
Thank you. Some of us spend as much time dealing with our past as we spend dealing with our future. What if you had an imaginary ticket? An imaginary ticket that will allow you to go on a journey, to learn about your family's history. Would you do that? Would you take that journey? My ancestors were slaves. I wanted to know more about where my family came from, my family's history, and most important, where did the name Brody come from? I know that ancestors don't come looking for you, you have to go looking for them. And so I did. In the 1990s, I took my imaginary ticket, I went on an imaginary journey. I found my sixth great-grandfather, John Brody. He was a slave. He was a slave from 1755 to 1793. He was owned by a gentleman named Charles Campbell, a prominent family living in Southwest Virginia. Now, Annie Lennox, a singer and songwriter, is quoted to have said, Our ancestors are a part of our everyday thoughts, every moments. But we don't know much of anything about their lives, the fears, the challenges, and that's true. I've learned that that's true. But one day while I was reading the book, I came across what I call that family needle in the family haystack. I came across page 155 in this book, and I began reading about a young boy. This young boy and his father left home up in the mountains and were traveling down the mountain to a city. And when they arrived at that city, the young boy was stolen. He was taken to a ship. The ship was headed to America. On that ship were others who had been kidnapped. They were chained and shackled and stowed below deck. The young boy was kept above deck. The shackles, the chains were much too large for his small body, 5 years old. On this journey to America, they started calling him John. And when they arrived in America, he and the other kidnapped people were put in the city square and sold to the highest bidder. John was purchased, and off to Southwest Virginia he took off and lived the rest of his life. Now that story comes from this book titled Paths of Glory. This book was published by Nellie Preston, 1963. The book contains the memoirs of her sixth great-grandmother, Elizabeth Henry Campbell. Her grandmother wrote her memoirs back in the early 1880s. Now, Elizabeth Henry was also the sister to Patrick Henry. You know the one, give me liberty, give me death. She was also the wife and the widow of Colonel William Campbell, American military hero during the American Revolution. That's who freed John in 1793, 60 years before the Civil War. But there's more to this story. There's more. There's a conversation in this book between Elizabeth and her memoirs and John. I want to share that with you. I'll paraphrase it for you. John approaches Elizabeth and asks her a very important question. He says, "Madam, I would like to ask permission to court Benny." Now, Benny was a slave girl owned by Elizabeth. "I'd like to have permission to court Benny. Benny is the first woman I've met that I'd like to make a home for. She reminds me of my mother." Elizabeth says to John, ignores his question, and says, "John, tell me about your mother. Where did you come from?" John responds, "Madam, I don't remember much of my mother. I was 5 years old when I last saw my father. But I do remember a little bit about where I came from, because I remember there was mountains that touched the sky. Down below, there were deep, dark valleys. Trees everywhere. Trees had nuts and fruits. Some trees had balls as big as my head. Open them up, they had white meat and milk. Some of those trees had little animals playing around. Little animals. They reminded me of little men. I used to tell people about that, and they laughed at me. My father and I rode this huge animal, twice the size of Master's horse. It had a tail in front. Elizabeth chuckles and says, "John, you're referring to an elephant." Elephant. John says, "Madam, is there really such an animal? I didn't just dream that up." Elizabeth says, "No, John, no. There is something we call an elephant, but please continue your story." So John said, "When we got to the city, madam, they stole me. They took me to the ship. When I got there, I saw these other people on the ship. They were chained and shackled. The men on the crew kept calling me a name I didn't know, but when they asked me my name, I couldn't think of it. I couldn't remember. I was so afraid. So they just started calling me John. John. And then at night, that was the worst time. The people below kept yelling and crying and wailing because they wanted to go back to where they were taken from. They wanted to go back home. I wanted to go back home. I wanted to go back to my father. But the only thing I could think of was the place they took me from, the place the ship departed from. I kept crying out, Baroda, Baroda, Baroda. And ma'am, they just started calling me John Brody. John Brody. That's been a good enough name for me, I reckon. Annie Lennox was right. We don't know much about our family's history, especially if you're a slave descendant. But I took this imaginary ticket, went on my imaginary journey. I found a little 5-year-old boy that grew up to be a man named John Brody. Not a name given to him by his mother and father, but a name given to him by men who stole him, men who sold him to the highest bidder. You have families. You have family histories. I encourage you to go find that family needle in that family haystack. Find that book that's got page 155. You might find a little boy there, or a man or a woman. You might find your story, your family story. Baroda, Baroda, Baroda. Oh, that's the name of my 6th great-grandfather. He said it was a good enough name for him. I'm his grandson. I'm a Brody. That's a good enough name for me too, I reckon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Art, contestant number 2, a minute of silence for the benefit of our judges. And the timer will indicate to me when we can move on. Thank you, Mr. Timer. So the speech contest for area B2 is adjourned. We move on to the next area, area D1. Can the third contestant, Douglas Crook, turn on your camera and your microphone? We will do a check here. Can you see the timer, hear me, and say something, and we'll hear you?
Yes, I can hear see the timer. I can hear you. And I can see myself in the.
Well, that's good. And we can hear you as well. So we are prepared to begin for area D1. Our next contestant is Douglas Crook, and his title is Why I Still Count Squirrels. Why I Still Count Squirrels. Please welcome Douglas Crook.
Counting squirrels, is that really a thing? For me, it is. When the COVID bans or the shutdowns began, and I was temporarily out of work, my brother said, you need to get some exercise. And he suggested that I do what is known as a bridge loop. that is a 4 1/4 loop along the Snake River in Clarkston and Lewiston, Idaho, Clarkston, Washington. And as I was doing my bridge loop, I was noting there are a lot of squirrels here. And so I started counting them. I'm a person who counts them. I count the birds that are flying by, cars going by, people. So counting squirrels was a natural thing for me. And sometimes I would see 24, 30, occasionally more, like 50, 60, my record 79 in just a 4 1/4 mile circuit. Haven't you done it enough? Now that you've counted them? Well, I like to do it. It's something I enjoy. I like to see them scurrying around, chasing each other, mobbing well, maybe not mobbing, ganging up a little bit on the people who are feeding them peanuts or walnuts. And I believe it improves my powers of observation and my patience. Sometimes you hear something and you can't immediately see it, so you have to look just a little bit harder to search before you find your squirrel. And the most important reason is I don't want to be Thurber's bloodhound. Thurber's bloodhound? What is that? Well, first of all, James Thurber was a writer, an American writer, mostly short stories, occasionally other things, but he is famous for his short stories. And one collection of them is called Fables for Our Time. One of the stories is The Patient Bloodhound. This is about a bloodhound who is sent to follow a suspect. So he gets on the trail and he follows him. He starts in Ohio and he goes all the way to New York, and he gets on a ship and he goes to Cherbourg and then to Paris, and then he crosses the English Channel. He goes all the way around Great Britain and gets to Liverpool, and finally he gets on another ship, sails all the way back to the United States. And he starts hunting for the man again. He finally gets back to New York and then to Ohio, all the way back to where he began. But because his head had been down, getting the scent, he had not seen anything of the places he had been. And I see people like that. They're out to do their one thing. They're going to get their exercise and they're focused straight ahead. They barely acknowledge the people that they come across, that they meet in doing their walking along the path. And I don't want to be that way. When I'm counting squirrels, I'm not aware of just the squirrels. I'm aware of the birds. I'm aware of the other mammals. Sometimes we see deer. Sometimes there are some marmots along the river and on the Lewiston side. And the plants, the trees, I'm aware of them in their life cycle, as sometimes they appear dead, and sometimes, and then they bloom, they leaf. And sometimes it's an amazing sight that how quickly they can go from looking like they should be like they're dead trees that should be taken out. And then all of a sudden they're live and green again. So I prefer to see the joy and the beauty of nature rather than just being Thurber's bloodhound. And so I will continue to count squirrels. Toastmasters.
Thank you very much. Contestant number 3, Douglas Crook. A minute of silence for the judges as a courtesy. Thank you very much, Mr. Timer. That was 1 minute of silence, and we adjourn the Area D1 area speech contest. And we move to the Area D2 contest with our 5th speaker. Eloise, you can unmute and turn on your camera. We'll do a mic check to make sure everything is good. Eloise, we need your microphone turned on. You are currently muted, and your camera turned on. Perhaps some technical difficulty. We will pause and wait here for however much time the contest chair. Okay, there we go. We have the camera on, and we need you unmuted so your microphone's on. Otherwise, we can't hear you.
Yeah, they're good.
Oh, there we go. So you can see the timer, Eloise, and hear me?
Yes,
Oh, great. And now we can hear you quite clearly. So we are ready to begin. Our next contestant is Eloise Phillips. Her title, Saving the Gold. Saving the Gold. Please welcome Eloise Phillips.
did changes in the weather affect your Christmas to New Year's holidays? Here is an urgent situation that affected the yearly crop. We had a few inches of snow. The New Year's storm brought 9 inches of snow overnight. Sunday night, January 2nd, I got this weather report. The winds are about to pick up in the Walla Walla Valley, causing serious drifts before the temperature creeps up a bit above freezing. Watch out for that drifting snow. It will surprise you. At 4 p.m., winds started and continued. 8 p.m. update. At last count, there are at least 7 vehicles stuck. On Birch Creek Road, snow was drifting over the doors. The Trip Check website states that Oregon Department of Transportation closed the main highways. The snow is deeper and the wind is about to really pick up, with gusts over 70 miles per hour predicted tonight and tomorrow. I just now heard on the scanner that the Department of Transportation is closing down Cabbage Hill, I-84, outside Pendleton. The Walla Walla area is known for its soft winter wheat. Farmers get ready, they maintain their equipment, they do the oil changes, they check the tires, they call their employees to prepare. They check over the grain elevators, they secure the fuel supplies and the above ground tanks. They look at the wheat. When the wheat is below 12% moisture, then it's ready to harvest. The only interruption to harvest is equipment breakdowns or rains. Spofford Station on Birch Creek Road has an elevator and a 90-foot tall center post and conveyor belt over a circular wheat ground pile. The wheat was harvested in the summer heat of July and August. The farmers filled the elevator first, and that is the tallest silo. The million bushel overflow was stored in a circular wheat ground pile 75 feet high. High-powered exhaust fans vacuumed the wheat to cool it down and tighten the giant tarp around the ground pile. All was well until the New Year's storm blew snowdrifts covering some of the fans on the vent tubes of the wheat ground pile, opening the tarp. The management used a John Deere front end loader with a 10 cubic yard scoop that holds a couple hundred bushels of wheat worth $2,000. The trucks lined up near the wheat. One was a red Kenworth Aerodyne T800A. The front end loader fills the truck, and then sometimes you can see the wheat dust. The trucks hold more than 1,200 bushels of wheat weighing 60,000 pounds. One truck is loaded and leaving, and then some of the trucks had an additional trailer so they could haul extra wheat. The trucks carry the golden wheat to safe storage. The produce will stay until the prices rise early in the spring. Now it is time to think about the future in the field. The field was planted during the rainy season of September and October. The green winter wheat crop starts sprouting up. Then they will turn to gold. Hurrah for the gold. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, thank you. Contestant number 4, Eloise. Mr. Timer, 1 minute of silence for the judges. Thank you, Mr. Timer. Our next contestant also hails from area D2. He has his camera on so we can see him. If you'll unmute yourself, can you hear me? Can you see the timer and say something, and we'll do a mic check.
I can hear you and see the timer.
Great. Well, then we are ready to go. Our next contestant is Roy Jones. Title of his speech, $4.5 million. $4.5 million. Please welcome Roy Jones.
$4.5 million. I had won $4.5 million. What would I do with all that money? Would I quit my job right away? Or would I wait? Should I pay off my home loan? or move and buy a mansion on the beach. I received a call from Sam Walters, a representative from Publishers Clearinghouse. He informed me of my amazing luck. Except I hadn't entered any contest, and the person on the other side of the phone was part of a scam. I can tell that some of you may feel some disappointment at this. I know that I was disappointed, but cheer up, because my misfortune is your gain. I'm going to tell you all about the warning signs and red flags and how you can avoid getting scammed yourself. Are you ready? Okay. Red flag number 1. The scammer will give you an awful lot of unsolicited information. He told me his name and his ID number and the package number and the winning number. He said that the prize patrol was coming to my house in a caravan and described that caravan for me. There was the Publishers Clearinghouse van, there was a flatbed truck, and on that truck was a new Chevy Silverado that I had also won. And riding with the prize patrol was the lawyer by the name of Mary Sanders that would be certifying my win. The caravan was to be escorted by a pair of highway patrol cars. There was even concern whether there would be enough space for all those vehicles to park on my street in front of my house. I was asked to head home immediately to meet them. How would I feel when the prize patrol caravan pulled into my neighborhood? All of this information was meaningless, of course, pure fiction. Not only was it irrelevant, but sending all the useless information my way served an additional purpose. This purpose was to keep me busy so that I wouldn't have time to ask questions that they could not answer. Red flag number 2. The scammer also asked me to write everything down. This also served to keep me busy, so I wouldn't have time to ask those pesky questions, but it also served a secondary purpose. Sam was trying to get me used to following his instructions. Writing down all of the super important information that he was giving me seemed like a small task, and it was the first step to getting me accustomed to following his directions. Having me go home to meet the prize patrol was the second step. Red flag number 3. The scammer wanted to stay on the phone with me the entire time. This is very important for them. If I get off the phone, suddenly I have all the time in the world to second guess what I am doing, and if any of this makes any sense. Red flag number 4. All scams will reach a point where they need to close the scam and land you. This means that they need to get you to do something that they can make money off of. Somehow they need you to send them money, or they need you to give them information that they will then use to impersonate you and either steal money from you or open lines of credit in your name. That moment came when Sam tried to close the scam with me. He informed me that the amount of money that I was about to receive was so large that they needed me to provide some special insurance for its transport across state lines. This seemed highly suspicious to me. However, being a pretty good sport, I decided to play along. How will I pay for that? I asked. The answer was to go to Walmart and buy a prepaid Visa card. I mentioned before that Sam wanted to stay on the phone with me the whole time. At the same time, Sam did not want the Walmart employees to see me talking to someone on the phone as I made my purchase of the prepaid gift card. Sam told me that that would violate some sense of confidentiality. This was all getting just a little strange for me, and I called Sam out on it. Once it was clear that he wasn't going to get the money, he dropped the act and even had the audacity to blame me for wasting his time. Because I am a Toastmaster, I know that every experience is good speech-making material, and this was no exception. I hope that you all feel just a little bit wiser and less likely to fall victim to this sort of scam. May you recognize the red flags. $4.5 million. Oh, well, I guess I'll keep my job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Contestant number 5, Roy. This adjourns the division or the area D2 contest. If the timer would time 2 minutes, I believe we'll do 2 minutes, allowing judges to finish their scoring sheets before dismissing them into the breakout room.
Okay, I forgot. How do I go to the breakup room? How do I go to the breakout room?
Nothing until we dismiss you, and the Zoom
Chief.
master will set that up. Now, before you all leave, a reminder to the judges, when you come back into this main room, you must leave your camera off, unlike the rest of us, if your screen still has the judge name. Otherwise, you will need to change your name to your human name, your real name, if you're going to have your camera on. The chief judge will give you more instructions from the breakout room. We don't want to see your face if your screen still says judges. Zoom master, send them all away. The judges, the chief judge, and the vote counter, send them into their secret hiding room where they will do their work. When they return, we will have results to announce at the end of our event tonight. Judges have a difficult job, even at this level of the competition. A reminder to everyone at the higher levels of competition, division and district, judges cannot be from any of the clubs that the contestants belong to. So that narrows the pool of judges at the division and district level. Please seriously consider volunteering to be a judge if your club has no contestants in the division or district level, because that's where the judges will need to come from. Madam Zoom Master, no, I still see Judge 3 and 5 in this room. Judge 3 and 5, you need to exit to the breakout room.
There's been no selection for going to the breakout room for some of us anyway.
Oh, okay. I get to play dumb because I don't know how that works. I'm sure that's being handled.
Shall I just click on breakout rooms and see what happens?
Madam Zoom Master?
Yes, please.
There went one. One more to go.
And they are all in the room. Please proceed.
And they are all in the room. This is the moment I've been waiting for. Not the interviews, that's coming next, but you may all turn on your cameras. As the competition is over, we want to see your faces. You're not required to, but you may all now turn on your cameras, contestants, audience, all other people. May I say, this would be the moment if we were live in a room together, we would have another round of applause for all of our contestants. Let's show that with hands in the air. We appreciate, I mean, it's pretty obvious we have fewer contestants in our District 9 this year. That's why of this combined contest. And we appreciate each and every one of you for stepping up in this format to compete. And I especially want to call attention to the fact that how difficult it is to give a speech to a blank screen. We are so used to meeting in person or on Zoom where we get to see people's expressions, see them smile, hear them laugh, giving us feedback as a speaker. And you didn't get that in this contest setting. I have a brother who works in television broadcasting. He's a news anchor and weatherman. And he said, well, Mark, we do that every night. We're talking to a camera with tens of thousands of people watching us and we never get to see them. So consider it a skill in case any of you go on television. With that, I have the great pleasure of conducting interviews. And I will do my own timing. I have about 3 minutes per contestant. At least we hope that that'll be enough time for the judges to do their work. As I said, I'll time them myself. And it will be in this order. 2 of our evaluation contestants were in both contests. So I'm going to call on first the evaluation contestant who was only in the evaluation contest. And then I will call on the 5 speech contestants in the order that they spoke. One more thing I will say, many of you, many of you wrote down in your interests and hobbies, travel and gardening. As such, I'm not going to ask you about travel and gardening. That seems to be a common interest of so many of you. Maybe that's why you, for some reason, why you decided to compete. So let me start with Beth. Beth, there you are, Beth. You turn on your microphone. Beth Reed, evaluation contestant. For you and for everyone, we'll start with what club do you belong to in what city? Do you currently hold an office in the club? And when did you join Toastmasters?
I belong to Pendleton 154, but I live and reside now in Lebanon, Oregon. So I'm a Zoom member and we'll end up staying that way. We'll do a hybrid at the point that we can. I joined gosh, probably 2016, 17, somewhere in there. I do not currently have an office, as I am sort of not located at that area right now. So it makes it a little bit difficult.
And of course, I have your profile sheet, so I can see you have served as a club president and VP
Yes.
of membership in the past.
Yes.
Your interest, I'd like to ask you about, you list interest as a musician and
Yes.
what inspires you is music. Now, as a
Yes.
musician, I assume you play an instrument?
I sing and then I also play. I started out very, very young as a pipe organist. And so I did that. I still do. But also then I picked up piano, instrumental piano. Do that throughout my other career with music. I've done flute, trumpet.
Wow.
I guess those as well. And different styles of music. I'm in the community chorus here, and then the church choir there, the women's choir there, and the symphony around.
Do you have a pipe organ in your home?
I do not. I had a large organ at one point, but it got to the point where the repairman told me to go away and to have my tears, and it would not be there when I got back.
Oh.
And he could use the parts for repairs.
Oh.
Yeah.
That hurts.
It did. It hurt very, very much.
That hurts.
And I had not put a quote down, but I did come up with, of course, my favorite quote once I had turned that in.
Feel free to share it now. One of the questions for those of you who don't know on the profile sheet is, what is your favorite quote?
It is one that has gone along with our life since marriage and children. And it is that life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It is about learning to dance in the rain. And that's from Vivian Green.
Vivian Green, that's a beautiful quote.
Yes, we've had it on our walls, and it's been a good one for us. Don't waste your moments.
I might be following up with you afterwards to get that wording. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yep.
And in the few half a minute I have left for you, during the pandemic, music, did you perform more of it, less of it? Did it comfort you during the pandemic?
A lot of the choirs, and through which, after my husband passed, I became more involved in the choirs in Pendleton. And so I got girlfriends that way, which was a wonderful way to get a lot of girlfriends that we sang together. But all of a sudden, all that was gone. We couldn't do the singing. In fact, here in Lebanon, they have just started up a couple of months ago now. And it's wonderful because I know over there in Pendleton, they aren't singing yet. It gave me, because I don't have that organ in my home, but I have that piano. And so, yes, and music has gotten me through just about everything. A real blessing. And I think any musician would probably say the same.
Okay, thank you very much, Beth.
Thank you.
For being our guest on the Mark Havens Oprah show. We move on now to our speaking contestants. Jason liked that. Speech contestants in the order that they performed. Stephanie Walsh, turn on your microphone. Besides traveling and gardening,
Yes, exactly.
that you listed both, I'm going to ask you about cooking. You listed cooking as an interest, and I have not had dinner tonight yet.
I haven't
So
either.
I'm hungry. When you said that that's an interest, during the pandemic, did that mean you enjoyed cooking? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Would you please tell us what club you belong to, in what city? And do you hold an office? And when did you join Toastmasters?
Okay, well, thank you, Toastmaster Mark. I belong to Apple Valley 50 Communicators, Apple Valley Communicators number 50. And I joined in 2019 this time. I had been a member of Apple Valley 50 from about 1986 to 1992. And I went through all sorts of offices, and I was a contest chair, and I did all sorts of things in that previous time and loved every minute of it. Now I am secretary of Apple Valley 50 and I am enjoying it every bit as much. We just had our first hybrid meeting yesterday. So Apple Valley 50, we're just storming through.
Okay, thank you. And for those of you who think that's a part of the name of the club, no, it's Apple Valley Communicators and the club number is 50. For those of you who belong to clubs with 6 and 7 digits, you realize how old this club is,
Yes.
that it has a number 50. Back to cooking.
Yes.
So during the pandemic, did you, what did you mean by that being an interest? Did you cook familiar foods a lot, or did you experiment with new recipes and things you had never tried before?
Well, I retired in January 2020. Prior to that, I didn't do as much cooking because I was working and we owned a restaurant and I always hoped my husband would bring something home from the restaurant. So after I retired and I started gardening, I started cooking and I thoroughly enjoyed cooking. My husband actually is a chef. He is the culinary arts instructor at YB Tech here in Yakima. And so cooking has always been a part of our lives. My son teaches food science at Davis, and my grandson is one of the cooking staff at a crafted restaurant here in Yakima. So cooking is in the Walsh blood, and we enjoy it very much. Some of the things that I've done since COVID, I make lots of pesto because I grow basil. And this fall, I was at the farm to fork presentations at the Central Washington State Fair and demonstrated my basil recipe. So that's kind of cooking for me.
Hey, thank you very much, Stephanie. I see judges returning. I don't want to not give a chance to interview, but perhaps we'll keep them a bit shorter. That may be a sign that results are closer than I realized. The next contestant was Arthur Brody. Could you turn on, there you are, I see you. Turn on your microphone. Introduce yourself with your club name and the city it's in. Do you hold an office and when did you join Toastmasters?
Thank you very much. I belong to 2 clubs. I'm a member of Club 274 Kennewick. That's the Tri-Cities Toastmasters Club. I'm also a member of the Richland Desert Wind Club. And I think that's 2078. I don't recall exactly. I can't get bogged down with these numbers. So I just know when they meet and I show up. I hold no office in 274. I'm just a member. Been a member for 6 or 8 months in that club.
Oh, a very new member. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to share with everyone that your previous occupation, because you're retired, is human resource management. And you list as your interests family and personal development. Would you like to share be a little bit more specific in about 1 minute or so of time? Family and personal development, how are you pursuing that in your retirement?
Well, when I was working, I was pretty much limited to learning my craft, my profession. But I had other interests that I had a little time for. But since my retirement, I've become an efficient. I do weddings, did over 30 weddings last year. I am a tutor for Sylvan Tutoring. I have a foundation that supports a little school down in Costa Rica. Of course, I've got Toastmasters that I'm involved in. I'm in Kiwanis in my community. I think if you read my favorite quote, it probably tells it all. I just think that when I'm over and done with. I've given it all I've got and nothing left for me to leave behind.
That sounds like a great goal. I work for a nonprofit that works with senior citizens, and I think the time and talent and wisdom of our retired people is the nation's biggest untapped resource that we need to learn to tap. Thank you very much, Art.
Thank you.
Next contestant, Douglas Crook, if you turn on your microphone. And Art, you can mute yourself on your microphone. Douglas, you list, club that you're in and office you hold and when you joined Toastmasters.
My club is Twin Rivers Toastmasters, number 1426. I'm currently Sergeant at Arms. And I don't remember, I think it's been at least 10 years now that I've been a member, so.
All right, thank you. And that club is in Lewiston.
Yes, Lewiston.
And you list among your various hobbies is photography. And during your speech, I don't know if you take pictures of squirrels, but my question, what do you enjoy photographing the most? And during the pandemic, did you do more photography, less photography, or about the same amount?
No, I haven't actually done a lot of photography recently. I'd like to get back to it. It's sort of putting your name on it, sort of. So if I stated, I'm going to get back to it. So I just liked various things. If I could get an animal to stand still long enough for me to take a picture of it, I do that. When I was in college, I tried to take some pictures of the track meets in the Kibbe Dome. I had to get some real fast film, 1620 or something, and I got some usable pictures. And otherwise, I family, friends, interesting architecture, clouds that I thought were interesting. Oh, I'm fairly eclectic.
Oh, that's interesting. So a lot of outdoor things or things in big spaces, not a bowl of fruit on a table.
Nothing.
For those of you who may not know or be familiar with our great University of Idaho in Moscow, the Kibbe Dome is the large athletic and performance space, probably the largest open air space in all of North Idaho. And that's what Doug was referring to. So thank you very much for sharing that. And thank you for competing, Doug. Our next contestant that was in the contest was Eloise. Eloise, you can turn on your microphone. Doug, you can mute yours so that I can ask you a question. Eloise, and what club do you belong to? For how long do you hold an office? What else? Yeah, what city is it in?
I belong to Walla Walla Club 81, and I've been a member of Toastmasters for more than 10 years. We used to have 3 clubs in Walla Walla, and I am now member of the sole remaining club in Walla Walla. Right now I'm Sergeant at Arms, and I've done some other offices temporarily, but mainly just attended the meetings and participated.
Well, wonderful. I'm sorry to hear Walla Walla has lost a couple clubs. From your form, I see the club number is 81. So again, another very low number club, a long-standing distinguished club that we want to see preserved. Among your hobbies, besides gardening and photography that we've heard, is teaching. So I don't know if you're a former teacher in a classroom, but tell me, what is it you like to teach and to what kinds of audiences, children or adults or special interest teaching? Tell us about teaching.
Oh, yes. I started as a 2nd grade teacher, and then I got married and moved out of the area. I had the opportunity to teach at a blind school in Vancouver. I had a multi-handicapped class there, blind plus another disability. Then I was able to teach at the deaf school in Vancouver. I had 3rd grade. And I enjoy sign language, but mainly it's for my own entertainment. But
Oh, that's American Sign Language?
yes,
Okay, I happen to know you're not the only Toastmasters who knows ASL. And was that Vancouver, Washington, or Vancouver, Canada?
yes, Washington.
Washington, okay. Do you keep up with teaching in any way besides giving informative speeches in Toastmasters? That's a form of teaching.
Yes.
Are you a substitute teacher or a teacher anywhere else?
Yes, I've been a substitute teacher for a number of years. I'm retired now, but I volunteered in a 5th grade classroom. Well, I called the superintendent to see if I could volunteer in one of the classes. I was still subbing at the time. And he referred me to Green Park School here in Walla Walla. There was a new 1st grade teacher, a man teacher. And I volunteered in his room over 14 years, and he moved up a year at a time. So when he taught 2nd grade, he had some of his 1st grade students, and then when he went to 3rd grade and so on. So I enjoy being around the kids.
Well, thank you for performing that great public service. I believe every school district in the country is desperately short of substitute teachers. They no longer even require that you hold a teaching certificate. Any of you who feel that that's a service to the community, you will be paid for it. Talk to your local school district about being a substitute. And our final contestant who competed in both contests, Roy Jones. There you are on the screen. You can unmute yourself. Eloise, you can mute yourself. And Roy, we begin with, tell us what club or clubs you belong to. Do you hold in what city? Do you hold an office in that club? And when did you join Toastmasters?
Yes, my name is Roy Jones, and I am a member of the Cayumawa Toastmasters in Pendleton, Oregon. I am currently serving as the treasurer, and I have been a member of Toastmasters just over 10 years now.
Wonderful. So you're a club treasurer and your occupation is you're director of a casino. Any connection there? You're director and hotel director of Wild Horse Resort and Casino.
Right. There is some overlap in that my job deals with money, and so I can count.
You can count, good. But you're not trying to double the club treasury in an exotic, risky way.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Maybe we should have a casino night as like a fundraiser or something. Hey, I'm thinking that. Okay, all right.
Well, I will tell you that the first time District 9 held a district conference at the Wild Horse Casino, and I was thrilled to go there because I'd never been there before. And on the morning of checkout on Sunday morning, I decided to drop a few coins into one of your generous slot machines. And I won $110 off a slot machine before I checked out, which basically paid for my entire trip. So I have fond memories. I have fond memories of the Wild Horse Casino. My question for you, just to be clear, you did not win $4.5 million.
No, okay. I did not. But for a brief time, I was in that zone of winning in $4.5 million.
Because if you had, you probably would not have put down as your interest is assisting your teenage children with scholarship applications, because it probably wouldn't be necessary. When I read that, it brought back horror memories from like 40 years ago when I was applying for scholarships for college. So how's that going, Roy? Are your children winning scholarships?
So the good news is that we have time. So my daughter is a sophomore and my son is an 8th grader. And most of the scholarships are for juniors and seniors. There are some exceptions, but most of the things available for people younger than that are really more contests, essay contests, video contests, that kind of thing. They have a lot of overlap with scholarship applications, but they're different in that same vein. So essentially, I feel like we're practicing for the big game, and that the junior year is, it would gonna ramp up the pressure, and then senior year is really when it appears that the floodgates open and all these scholarships become available.
That is true. And as a word of advice from my distant past, I will tell you, don't think it ends when they enter college. There are scholarships available for 2nd, 3rd, 4th year of college, but you have to research it. You have to stay in touch with the financial aid office and go off after them even for the later years in college. I myself won a $20,000 scholarship in my junior year in college because I was aware of a program awarding to only to later students.
It's awesome. Yeah, thank you for that.
I don't see our chief judge. I'm going to ask you one more question before letting you off the hook. You list, Roy, as a notable accomplishment that you were selected as Pendleton's Volunteer of the Year for the year 2018. So clearly that had nothing to do with your job, your employment. Where did you volunteer and how were you selected for Pendleton's Volunteer of the Year?
At that time, I was volunteering in 3 major capacities in the community. First was through the library. I'm a registered volunteer with the city library, and I was hosting one of their programs. I also was a scoutmaster at the time for a Cub Scout troop. And then the final thing was that I was an assistant coach for the Pendleton and Hermiston Special Olympics of Oregon team, summer kind of track and field events. So those are the things that I was involved in. And I was certainly honored to be recognized by someone who knew of my involvement and nominated that, and they ended up selecting me for the award.
Well, congratulations with that. Personally, I feel that during the 2 years of the pandemic, volunteers, as much as first responders, are what held this country together. People willing to give of themselves and not expect a payment back or bonus pay or danger pay, whatever they call it.
Hazard
pay. That was it. Really held the country together. And I'm director of a nonprofit where we rely on a crew of about 70 volunteers to perform our services. Without volunteers, we wouldn't exist.
Sure.
So thank you for your work, Roy. That concludes our interviews, unless I have to fill more time. Madam Contest Chair, and the Zoom Master here's too, but where's our Chief Judge? Are they still working on results?
No, he's coming back. He just left my room to get back on.
Okay, that's great, and I see him there. I would have made, if we had to kill more time, I would have made a few announcements for the next levels, but we can wait for those because I'm sure you're all dying to hear the results. We will ask you to stay on, you contestants, and have your cameras on, because for each contest, evaluation contest and international speech contest, they want a screenshot of the winners. I don't know if that means individual pictures or pictures of the whole all of us. I'll let someone else explain that once we announce the winners. So Mr. Chief Judge, who is Sean Eiholzer, and he has, where are you on my screen? It's like the Brady Bunch. There you are. Yes. You have to wave or something. You have the announcement for the winners, the people who will go on to the next level, right? So I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Before I give the results, I do need to say that there was one disqualification for time. With that, we will start with the evaluation contest for area D1. First place, Douglas R. Crook. Congratulations. Now for the results of area D2 evaluation contest. Second place, Roy Jones. Area D2 evaluation contest. First place, Beth Reed. We are now on to the international speech contest for area A3. First place, Stephanie Walsh. For area D1, international speech contest, first place, Douglas R. Crook. And now for the area D2 international speech contest, second place, Eloise Phillips. And for first place, international speech contest for area D2, Roy Jones. I return it back over to our Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you who competed. The next level is division. I think I will call, and with one reminder, the contests at the higher levels will be much the same of what you've seen here, except what I mentioned earlier. Judges have to come from clubs who do not have contestants. So with that notice, I want to call upon the contest chair, past district director or district governor, Brenda Pangborn, who will explain what to look forward to in the next levels of competition. Brenda.
Thank you, Mark. First of all, I want to thank every single one of you that have either attended to support your speakers, or the majority of you who are not speakers who have come to help put this contest on. It was really tough without having our area directors and area and division directors to make sure that we had these contests done. So we had to kind of take it on as a group. And we appreciate every single one of you for supporting that. And special thanks also to Mark for doing the wonderful job of Toastmaster. It allowed me to multitask where I needed to. What I want to do first is ask our contestants if the Friday has been a good slot for them, or if Saturday is something that they would have preferred. And the reason I want to ask that is because if we have ours on a Saturday while Division C is doing theirs on the Friday, then we can better support each other as far as having judges from our side versus their side. You know, we can exchange judges, but if they're working on their contests and they've got people, anyway, it just makes it would make resources more available. So what I would like is there any objection? Raise your hand if there's any problem with a Saturday contest, roughly the same time, but on Saturday, or maybe even earlier in the afternoon. Is Saturday it'd be Saturday the 23rd, is that right, Karen? If we did it on Saturday, are there any issues with our contestants?
That is correct, Brenda. The district website calendar shows the division contests on Friday evening, April 22nd. Brenda's asking if the A, B, and D divisions could move their contests to Saturday, the next day, so that we can support the C division and they can support us.
I'll speak up and say that I have conflicts on Friday, but Saturday would work great.
Saturday's better for me as well.
All right, then Karen, if you don't mind setting up our division contest for Saturday, the 23rd. Time of day, is an afternoon one better than the evening slot, or is that a matter to anybody? Okay, Karen, then I will let you select a time that you think is convenient on Saturday for the majority of people, which is not 6 o'clock in the morning, of course.
I'd prefer afternoon.
Prefer afternoon? Okay, that sounds good then. All right, that's all I had. As far as the contests for our district, we're planning on the evaluation contest being the 20th of May on the Friday. And then and I think that right now we've got that scheduled probably around 7 o'clock in the evening, because Friday's a work night. Then the contest for international speech will be on the Saturday evening as part of the conference. Anything, is that all you needed me to discuss, Mark?
I believe so. I would hope, Madam Program Quality Director, Karen Mobley, with that change made on the dates, I would suggest then that all of the different division times and everything be publicized to all Toastmasters in District 9, because again, those of us in Division A, B, and D could support the Division C contest on Friday night, April 22nd, and hopefully some of them would support us by being judges or timers or, you know, the different functionaries. That's the goal of changing that. For those of you who may not realize, each area is allowed to send up to 2 contestants, which is what we have here, forward in the evaluation and in the international speech contest. And at the division level, 2 contestants in each contest from each division, A, B, C, and D, will go forward to the district contest. So those would be the numbers we will be aiming for. And that means there will be real competition at those levels. We want to thank our contest chair, Brenda Pangborn, our chief judge, Sean Eiholzer, both are past district directors. Sean was aided by a panel of anonymous judges who must stay anonymous, but we appreciate your help and your effort and your hard work. Our Zoom master is our program quality director, Karen Mobley. Our sergeant at arms, having to deal with the unruly breakout room. Has she left already? No, there she is, Victoria Chatterton, our district director. thank you. I hope the people in the holding pen were not too boisterous. And, you know, we couldn't do anything of what we were doing without our timer. We depended on him so much. He's now turned on his camera. Jacob Liston, we appreciated your able timing, keeping us within time and everyone on target, not just our contestants, but me and all the parts of the contest. Brenda or Karen, have I missed anyone thanking, and the contestants, of course? Is anyone else needing to be thanked?
You did a great job, Mark, and we would like to thank you for your role as our contest Toastmaster. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That reminds, thank you very much. I consider this easier than most of those other roles. Would one of you like to explain, perhaps Brenda, what are you doing with certificates? Has that been decided? Will they be digital, virtual, or through email, or are you going to mail them through postal mail?
I have all the certificates already prepared. Whether you were going to be a first or a second or a third, you already had your certificates prepared. I have mailed them electronically to Karen, but I've already printed them out. So I'll probably drive them over to her house because she's going to be attaching whatever ribbons go along with those. And I would assume then the district will be mailing them out to the contestants.
Okay, thank you. No trophies at this level, but I believe there may be trophies at the division level, definitely trophies at the district level. And as I said at the beginning, hopefully this spring of 2022 may be our last opportunity, our last requirement to do our contests virtually. And we look forward to all seeing each other in the same room sometime in the near future. And without any further objections, questions, are we ready for adjournment? Then the area international speech contest, evaluation contest for areas that lay in Division A, B, and D are hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you next month.